This is the CVF aluminum intercooler charge pipe kit fitting the 2015 through 2023 EcoBoost powered Mustang. Now you should be checking out the CVF option if you'd like to add one of the most affordable hot and cold side kits currently on the site to replace that cheap plastic and rubber factory piping with a quality TIG welded mandrel bent aluminum kit finish in a black powder coat. Now this kit does include all of the hot and cold side piping, all of your 4-ply couplers, and all of your T-bolt clamps for right around that mid to high $200 price point. All right, so your big upgrade here at the CVF kit will be the big time upgrade in materials from the cheap factory plastic and rubber piping to the high quality TIG welded aluminum piping with that really sharp wrinkle black powder coat. Now the factory hot and cold side piping in that cheaper material can break or crack, leading to a boost leak over time, whereas the aluminum kit here from CVF is going to be far more durable. Not only that, but things like the rolled ends here, along with the included T-bolt clamps and 4-ply couplers, will prevent that piping from blowing off under higher boost levels. Now, other features with this kit will be the increased airflow capabilities along with the improved throttle response, just to name a few. All right, moving into construction, and as I just pointed out, the hot and cold side piping will be built from TIG welded aluminum, 2.5 inches here on the hot side of things, and then of course we have 2 3/4 inches on the cold side piping. And again, as you can see, finished off in a really sharp wrinkle black powder coat. Really dig the look of this, especially over that plastic or rubber factory stuff. Now the CVF piping is designed to work with both stock or aftermarket intercoolers, along with both stock or aftermarket blow-off valves, as long as they use that 3-bolt design. Now the cold side piping that we have in our hand right here today does actually include an 1/8 inch NPT bung that can be used for a couple of different things, maybe an additional sensor or even an auxiliary injector if you did want to run a little methanol or something like that. Now the kit does include some pretty burly 4-ply couplers here, in addition to the corresponding T-bolt clamps, and everything is backed by a limited lifetime warranty in case you're running into any issues. Coming in at or around that mid to high $200 price point, the CVF kit is going to be one of your more affordable charge pipe kits currently on the site for your EcoBoost powered Mustang at home. Now this kit will be more affordable compared to kits from SR Performance, HPS, and K&N, just to name a few. Last but not least, now let's get into the installation, and the site's gonna call this a middle of the road 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you a couple of hours or so to knock out from start to finish. But now to give you a better idea of how this one might go down in the garage or driveway at home, let's throw it out to the shop for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
For this install, you will need an impact, a ratchet, a small extension, 7 and 10 millimeter sockets, a 5 millimeter Allen socket, clip removal tool, and some pliers. What's up guys, today we're going to be installing some intercooler charge pipes on our Mustang, so let's get started. Alright guys, so we're starting off with the vehicle in the air. Now this is a doable install from the ground, but it's much easier to show you and to get to the throttle body side charge pipe, the lower connector at the intercooler, if you do have it in the air and the skid plate off. So we'll pop this off real quick. We've got a couple of push clips and a bunch of 7 millimeter screws around it. So we've got our clip removal tool, also a 7 millimeter socket on our impact. We'll run all this off and get this out of the way. And we've got a few of ours missing, but say every 7 millimeter that you can see, you're gonna need to remove. We have all this off. I'm pulling our skid plate. We also have a couple clips on each side over here. Now we can pull our splash guard out of the way. So we're going to start with our throttle body side charge pipe. So we'll need to loosen up this worm gear clamp. our 7mm socket on our ratchet. And we'll loosen up the other side. I will loosen up our turbo outlet side with our 7mm socket. Once you've got these loose, you can at least begin to work them off of our intercooler inlet and outlet. Now we're back up in the top of the engine bay. We're gonna loosen up our clamp on our throttle body. This charge pipe, again with our 7mm socket. Now that we have this side loose, we'll work this off of the throttle body. Now these might be a little bit tricky to get off. Now if you do find you're having trouble getting this off, you can grab a longer flathead screwdriver and very gently put a little bit of leverage around various points on your charge pipe. Be careful prying against your throttle body actuator. You want to kind of pull back at the same time. Again, we're not applying a lot of force to this, just enough to get it moving a little bit. Eventually that'll come free. Okay. Now for our turbo outlet side, we're going to need to unplug our blow-off valve as well as remove our hose. So we've got some needle nose pliers. We're going to release the tension on this clamp. Pull this hose off. Now, if you find this hose is being stubborn, sometimes it's easier to come to your intake air tube side and remove it from this fitting first. Do that. Came off a lot easier. And then while we're over here, we also need to unplug our blow-off valve. Reach in here. We'll need to pop that tab first. Get that unplugged. So now we'll come in and loosen this upper clamp for our turbo outlet. And these are all 7mm. Get that good and loose. Once we have that loose, work this off of the turbo. Okay, so now that we have a little more room to work with this hose, we'll come back and get this off. If this has never been off, it is going to give you a little bit of a fight. And if it's really giving you a struggle, you can just move it out of the way. We'll get that off once we pull our charge pipe out. Now, one other thing you're going to have to do is remove the 2 retainer clamps on this little bracket for your harness. Ours are already broken, so they're off. So now we'll go back down under and work those bottom couplers off and get these out. So now we're back underneath the car. We're going to start with our throttle body side. Just going to work this off of our intercooler fitting. Pull that side out. Now we'll work on our turbo side. This one may be a little bit tougher. Again, if you find this is sticking a bit, you can bring back that flathead. Just gently work this. Sometimes they tend to get a little bit stuck to the fittings. I'm not applying pressure, prying. I'm just trying to loosen this up from the fitting itself, especially if this has never been off of your vehicle. We'll keep working that off. Got that popped out. Now this one might be easier for you to pull from the top, so we'll go back up and get this out. We'll get this out. So be careful. Pull that up and out of the way. So now that we've got our factory piping out, we're gonna need to remove our hose and our valve. So we'll just pop that off. We also need to take our valve off. That is held on by 3 5mm Allen bolts. So now we'll take our 5mm Allen socket and small extension on our ratchet. Get these off. We'll loosen all 3. Once we have all 3 of those out, we can pull out our valve. Now we're going to install our factory valve and hose onto our new charge pipe. Now is a good time before you install this to inspect your diaphragm and your seal for any wear or damage. That'd be a perfect time to replace that because this will cause boost leaks and improper function, so you definitely don't want that. We're going to orient this the same way it came out. We want to drop this down nice and centered. Then we're going to reuse our factory hardware. We'll get these in place. And we're going to bring back our 5mm Allen socket and extension, and we're going to tighten this down evenly. Now first we're just going to get all of our bolts snug. And once they're all snug, we'll come back and fully tighten them. That way you have a nice, even tightening surface. Once we have that on, we can install our hose onto our new fitting. Now you'll notice this hose is held in this clamp is held in the open position. There's a tab on the back of it. You'll just need to clamp that back and get that back into its tightening position. We'll do that once it's on the vehicle and we're ready to set this because we do want to allow for a little bit of movement. Alrighty guys, so we've got both of our charge pipes laid out along with our couplers and our clamps. So our 3 largest clamps are going to go on the throttle body side charge pipe. And then our smallest clamp is going to our turbo outlet. That's going to be on this reducer coupler, as well as our 3 mid-size clamps for the rest of our turbo outlet side. So what we're going to do is just get all our clamps in place and our couplers loosely for now. We're not tightening anything down, we're just snugging. Then we'll get everything over to the car and start installing it. So first is going to be our reducer coupler for our turbo outlet. So we'll get our clamp over that and get our coupler installed. Now you want to keep in mind the orientation of how this is going to be on the vehicle itself. So you want to kind of keep your clamps at a place where they're going to be accessible. Then we're just going to snug them down a little bit with our 10mm socket on our ratchet. And this is just so they don't pop off and move while we're installing them. So we've got that side on. Remember, the smallest coupler is for your turbo outlet. We're not going to install that yet. Then if you keep in mind your orientation to your intercooler, we're going to install this elbow onto the other side of our turbo outlet. Get this one seated. Again, we're just going to snug this down a little bit for now. So we may have to move these around and change angles once we get into the vehicle. So it's pretty snug. And again, this side is going to be for our intercooler. So we've got that one squared away. So now that we've got our hot side sorted out, we can move on to the cold side. So we have a 45-degree coupler that is also a reducer. The smaller end is going to go to your intercooler. The larger end is going to go to your charge pipe. We'll get our larger clamp onto our coupler. And kind of bring this back a little bit onto it. It's going to allow for our charge pipe to get in there. And these may be a little bit stiff. Get in at first. Just want to go slow and work that into place. Okay. We have it in the general direction of where it's going to go. Again, we may have to tweak this once we get it in. Then our straight coupler is going to go onto our throttle body side. Once again, we have our large coupler. Clamp. Put that onto our charge pipe. And we'll be ready to go. Now, one other thing to note is you do have a bung here that you want to make sure this plug, this set screw is tightened down. It's going to be a 6mm Allen socket. Just make sure it's tight. It should be out of the box. Alrighty guys, so we're going to start by installing our cold side. So we've got our clamps over our couplers on both sides. We're going to feed the intercooler mounting section down, kind of get that lined up with the outlet of our intercooler. This is just going to be in the general direction. We're kind of going to hold that place until we can get under there and install it on the intercooler side first. And we're going to do that for both sides. And then we're going to come up top and make our connections and plug everything back in. So we'll do the same thing for our hot side. Your hot side is going to be much easier to line up because it's easier to see the intercooler inlet side. You can actually begin to get that onto the fitting first. Now we did get the bottom of our turbo outlet charge pipe onto the intercooler, so now we'll get our turbo outlet coupler on. And again, we can adjust these clamps to a more accessible spot. And then we'll button up this whole side, tighten up all of our clamps. Get our hoses back lined up. Next, we'll get our bypass valve plugged back in. This is a bypass valve, not a blow-off valve. Snap that tab back into place. Get this hose back into its spot. Make sure that clamp is on evenly. Next, we can tighten down our two clamps for our turbo outlet coupler. And with our 10mm socket. And you want to make sure you release this clamp if you did have it in the open position. So So now we're underneath the car and we're gonna start off on our cold side. We do have our coupler started onto our intercooler outlet. We're gonna work that onto the outlet fully. This definitely is gonna be a bit of a tight squeeze, so just have patience with it. Work it on. If you find this to be a real struggle, you can also back your clamp off and get a heat gun and kind of loosen up these couplers a little bit. Shouldn't have to, but that is always an option if you need to. So now that we've got this fully seated, I want to check it on both sides to make sure it's seated both ways. We need to get our clamp in position. Now, coming up underneath of this, you do have a straight shot at where your throttle body is. So as long as you make sure that this is lined up how you want it and it's not hitting anything, we can tighten this clamp down. That's going to prevent this from moving. We'll do that now. Okay, that's nice and tight now. So while we're down here, since our hot side is all taken care of, we're going to tighten up these bottom two clamps. Now we'll get our coupler onto our throttle body. You may have to work this pipe down into your lower coupler a bit to get this in place. You want to make sure your coupler seats properly. Now we'll tighten down these two clamps. Now these have enough room to get an impact in. Now we can tighten down our last clamp. Make sure this one's tight. Then we can reinstall our splash guard. Now we'll get our splash guard back into place. Maybe we want to tuck that inside of your front lip. Bring it behind fender liner. Start by reinstalling these two lower push clips on the back. We'll get our other two push clips into where it lines up with our fender liner. Now that we have all those in, we'll reinstall all of our 7mm screws. So now once again, we'll grab our 7mm socket and get all of our screws back in place. Now one thing to keep in mind when putting this back in, you are tightening into clips on plastic, so there's no need to over tighten, do anything too wild. Just needs to be snug. Now once you got them all in on the outer perimeter, you want to make sure you get your two in the middle, as well as your ones right by your little mud flaps. Alrighty folks, that about wraps up our review and install of our CVF aluminum intercooler charge pipe kit for your 15 to 23 Mustang EcoBoost. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.